All right, class. Today we are continuing with the Renaissance, and we are talking about the Medici family. And the Medici family, without them, the Renaissance never would have taken place because they had lots and lots of money. All right, they were very wealthy. They were bankers. Uh, they owned the largest bank in Europe at the time, and it was really well respected. But they had lots of money to support the artists and stuff that went with the Renaissance, and they did that. Not only the artists, but the inventors, the scientists, you know, all these other things. They were patrons to them, and they were in power for about 200 to 300 years in Italy before they eventually died out. Their power did. So that's who we're talking about today, the Medici family, because they're very important with the Renaissance. And like I said, if it was not for them, chances of the Renaissance happening probably would not have happened. All right, so like I said, the Medici family ruled throughout the city of Florence throughout the Renaissance. They had a major influence on the growth of the Italian Renaissance, and because they gave money to these artists. All right, if you look right here, this is the Medici family, all of them. That I'm not talking about every single one of them today, but I'm just talking about some key figures in the Medici family.
The Medici family. The Medici family ruled the city of Florence throughout the Renaissance. They had a major influence on the growth of the Italian Renaissance through their patronage of the arts and humanism.
All right, so they were the rulers of Florence, basically. All right, yeah, because of all their money and all their influence and power. All right, they were wool merchants and bankers. If you look right here, wool merchants and bankers. And Giovanni de Medici. All right, I'm sorry, it's hard saying. That's like a tongue twister there. Uh, he brought his family to prominence in Florence by starting the Medici Bank. All right, and his son Cosimo de' Medici became the Grand Maestro, or the leader in Florence city-state in 1434. You know, they had lots of power and lots of influence in Florence, Italy. Right here, this is Giovanni de' Medici.
Rulers of Florence. The Medici family were wool merchants and bankers. Both businesses were very profitable, and the family became extremely wealthy. Giovanni Medici first brought the family to prominence in Florence by starting the Medici Bank. He also was the leader of the Florence merchants. His son, Cosimo Medici, became the Grand Maestro of Florence city-state in 1434. The Medici family ruled Florence for the next 200 years until 1737.
All right, so they were very powerful. They had lots of money. They could do things that other people couldn't do because they had all this money, and they became patrons. All right, for these artists because they had this money, and a patron is somebody who sponsored an artist for work. All right, well they became the Medici family in Florence became those. All right. They had a huge impact on the Renaissance, and it allowed artists to focus on just making art and not having to worry about money.
Leaders of the Renaissance. The Medici are most famous for their patronage of the arts. Patronages were a wealthy person or family sponsors artists. They would pay artists commissions for major works of art. The Medici patronage had a huge impact on the Renaissance, allowing artists to focus on their work without having to worry about money.
All right, so like I said, they were leaders of the Renaissance. You know, some of the names, I can't say some of these names down here, but I want you to remember these Renaissance men with the masks on right here, looking like the Ninja Turtles or something. Okay, it's because the Ninja Turtles were named after them. They supported Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo da Vinci. And right here they are in this picture. They supported them. They supported all of them, and if they hadn't, you know, like this Renaissance wouldn't have came of age. We wouldn't have some of this art we have nowadays because they wouldn't have been able to support themselves.
Leaders of the Renaissance continued. A significant amount of the art and architecture that was produced in Florence at the beginning of the Renaissance was due to the Medici. Early on, they supported the painter Masaccio and helped pay the architect Brunelleschi to rebuild the Basilica of San Lorenzo. Other famous artists that the Medici supported included Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo da Vinci.
All right, and they didn't just support arts, all right, and architecture as well. They also supported science, and a famous scientist that they supported was Galileo. All right, he was one. He discovered moons on Jupiter, and he discovered lots of things, in our solar system in science, and which went against the church, and we'll get into him more later because the church didn't like it, because he discovered some things, and they pretty much shunned him from the community after that. So, but he also was a tutor for the Medici children. So, like I said, all this money, you've got money, you can do stuff with it, and they did a lot with this to help culture and educate Rome, or not Rome, but Italy, Florence.
Leaders of the Renaissance continued. The Medici didn't just support the arts and architecture, they also supported science. They supported the famous scientist Galileo Galilei in his scientific efforts. Galileo also worked as a tutor for the Medici children.
All right. And the reason they had all this money, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is they owned the largest bank in Europe. All right. It was the Medici Bank. It was the largest bank in Europe, and it was very well respected at its peak. All right. They made all kinds of improvements to the double entry bookkeeping system. They did all this. So they were very, very well respected, and had a very big bank that made them lots of money.
Bankers. The Medici owed much of their wealth and power to the Medici Bank. It made them one of the richest families in all of Europe. It was the largest bank in Europe, and at its peak was very well respected. The bank made notable improvements to accounting procedures, including the development of the double entry bookkeeping system.
All right, so who began the bank to make the Medici family wealthy? Who was it? Was it A, Giovanni de Medici, B, Mr. Sean, or C, Leonardo? The answer is Giovanni Medici. This man right here, he started the bank that made them wealthy.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number 2, what were the Medici family most famous for doing? A, banking, B, giving patronage of arts, or C, knowing Mr. Sean? They were most famous for giving patronage of arts. They were patrons of the arts community within the Renaissance, and they supported these artists. Was what they're most famous for doing.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number 3, who were 4 famous artists the Medici supported? Was it A, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello, B, the Kardashians, or C, the Simpsons? It is A, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello. They later had the Ninja Turtles named after them.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Number 4, what scientist did the Medici family also support? Was it A, Bill Nye, the science guy, B, Galileo, or C, Mr. Sean? It is Galileo. He discovered a lot of things in our solar system. We'll talk about him later on in this unit. A lot of things in our solar system, and when his beliefs or his discoveries went against the church, and they did not like that, so they shunned him for it.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
And our last one, what business did they own that was the largest in Europe? A, the Medici Bank, B, the Medici Farm, or C, an arcade? It was A, they were bankers. They made their money through banking. Now, yeah, they did have wool. They were wool merchants too, but they made most of their money through the Medici Bank.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right, class. That is all for today. I will have more on the Renaissance, and I'm also going to have a lesson. We're going to go back to the Middle Ages just a little bit. I'm going to have a lesson on William Wallace from Scotland in this, and we're going to have a special guest doing some voice stuff on there. From one of my friends from Scotland is going to do some voiceovers work for me on it, and so you're going to get to hear an actual Scottish accent on it. So, but anyway, everybody have a good weekend, and I will post something maybe tomorrow, maybe some videos, and then we'll have some more stuff on Monday. All right, bye class.